Come on, come on, come on. Oh, no good. Alright guys, so have you ever just been sat there? Have you ever thought, I wonder what it would be like to be, I don't know, say vegetarian? Or have you ever looked there and thought, what would it be like to be vegan? I think I could do that. It would be interesting, you know? Or how hard would it be to be a pescatarian? You know? These are just a couple of examples of different things that people have that, well, I say different things people have. These are more things that, well, these are like diets that people follow through a lot of things. So, if you've ever wondered what these are, well, you're in the right place, because I'm starting off with a new mini-series, and I'm starting off with what it's like to be a vegetarian. So, how do you become a vegetarian? Alright, so if you're wanting to be a vegetarian, there's a lot of things you need to take into consideration. One of the things would be, well, you've got to know what it is first. So let's get into that first. So, for much of the world, a vegetarian is largely a matter of economics, because a lot of people, well, saying that, I say a lot of people do want to become vegetarian for a number of different reasons, and one of these reasons is due to cost, because meat can cost a lot of money these days. Depending on where you go to get your meat, if you go to big supermarkets, it can cost quite a bit of money. However, if you go to some butchers, it can be quite cheap. However, then there's also the factor in things such as, say if your parents are vegetarian, then you're going to lean more towards being a vegetarian, simply because you're being brought up as a vegetarian, so therefore in a sense you've got no choice. Other things such as religion come into it, and say that there again it can be parental guidance as well. Everything can factor in like that, and it's amazing to see how the world works. I mean, personally, disclaimer, this video is nothing to do with any of my thoughts or opinions, or I'm not trying to force a view. I'm saying you should be or you shouldn't be. I'm just figuring out myself what it is, how to do it, and what's good and what's bad about it, and also tips to, if you do decide you want to do it, on how to put you in the right direction if you're a little bit unsure or you just decide you fancy it. So let's dig a little bit deeper, and there are things such as vegetarian and semi-vegetarian diets. Now, different people follow different forms of vegetarianism, much like people follow religions, say the strict or unorthodox. So, basically, you've got a number of different types of, well, vegetarians. So you start off with a vegetarian that's true, will not eat no meat at all. So that's basically like a strict, I don't know, for example, say a strict Christian. You know, they'll stick to exactly what it says in the Bible, word for word. So that's basically following the letter of the law. So now if you move into, there is also, what's the other one? There's also a lacto-ovo vegetarian that eats dairy products, eggs, and excludes meat. So they'll basically eat anything, they just don't eat meat, that's it. But they'll eat eggs and, you know, other things like that, and fish. So, sorry, no, they don't eat fish. So it excludes meat, fish, and poultry. So that's a lacto-ovo. See, I didn't even know that existed until I started doing research for this video. And then you've got a lacto-vegetarian that eats dairy products, but no eggs, whereas an ovo-vegetarian eats eggs but no dairy products. So there's the different types of vegetarians for you, and it is a little bit confusing. So I don't think I could ever be a vegetarian, never in a million years. But that's just me. I like meat. I like me. Yeah, I like it. It's nice. So now if we move into the micronutrients. So there's a lot of things you need to consider. Some micronutrients and some macronutrients may be a problem if you are becoming a vegetarian. These include things such as protein, for example, which is a big no-no. Well, I say it's a big no-no. It's more of a thing where you think, oh, where am I going to get it from? Because meat seems to have it, everywhere. So where will you get this from if you're not going to get it from meat? Now, a lot of people don't want to be a vegetarian because they think it'll be too hard, and it can be very hard. Like anything, you've got to do your research and you've got to think about it wisely, to make that choice. So one thing that people find hardest is getting what's called a complete protein, and that refers to all the amino acids, which are building blocks of protein. So there is 20 different amino acids that can form up a protein, and 9 that your body can't produce on its own. So to obviously be complete protein, you need to be able to get them extra 9 forms of protein. And obviously you can't get that with a lot of non-meat products, which is where people have got the beef. No pun intended. But that's where people have got a lot of issues with that. So obviously we need to eat them because we can't make them ourselves. So it's like vitamins as well. A lot of the time we get it from the food we eat, so we can't just expect it to be there. We've got to eat food to get it. Also, meat and eggs are complete proteins because they've got everything in them. And beans. I think there's only beans and nuts that aren't. But humans don't necessarily need every single amino acid in bits of food. We only need a sufficient amount. So I'm about to tell you some sort of foods that can help you out with this, because these are some of the best. There's some of the best examples I've found. There are only a few examples because I don't want this video to be about 100 minutes long. I want it to be nice, informative, straight to the point, factual, and give you a good argument for and against it. So if we look into my first example of a superfood in terms of being a vegetarian, and that would be mycoprotein or corn. Yeah, so the classic corn. I always get it mixed up with prawn. I have no idea why, but it helps me remember it either way. So originally developed to combat global food shortages. Corn got its name as corn. I'm not 100% sure I got its name corn, but obviously mycoprotein's always been known as corn. And it's made by growing a certain kind of fungus in vats and turning it into meat substitutes. So it's basically, how do we put this? It's basically like mushroom. So it's like extracts of mushroom, essentially, but mushrooms have got protein in. So it's a little bit weird to sort of think of, but there's no meat in it whatsoever. So therefore, it's one of the best sort of substitutes you can get. And yeah, if you think about it, you can get all sorts of different products. I'll have a photo, it'll be up here or it'll be round up top somewhere of corn products, just some examples. So when you're next at the supermarket, if you think about trying them, try them, because it's supposed to have a lot more protein in, but watch the salt, because they say to you, oh, it's got less fat in, but you've got to watch the salt and the sugar contents, because they put loads of them in to make up for the lack of fat, to add taste. So just remember that the next time you do want to have a look at that. So that's corn. Now let's move into a food that, again, I didn't even know existed until now, and that is buckwheat. So buckwheat, in fact, is not a type of wheat at all. So there you go, straight away. But it's a relative of rhubarb. While the Japanese have turned the plant into a funky noodle called, I think it's called sobs. Most cultures eat the seeds by grinding them into flour, making a great base for, yep, you guessed it, a gluten-free pancake. Sounds good. You can also get things such as gluten-free pizzas, breads, and a lot of that's just for people who are gluten intolerant or can't have gluten. But also, if you want to be a vegetarian, there you go. Buckwheat is another thing to look at. It's crazy healthy as well, according to research. So I think the next time I have a look out, I might have a look for some of that. Especially with the fact that it's good for helping lower blood cholesterol, and it's also good with controlling blood glucose levels as well. So if you've got high sugar and high salt and high cholesterol, give it a go. Apparently it works. You know, it might taste horrible, but you don't know until you try it. So I think that's something I'll have a look out for the next time I'm out shopping, but I don't really think that's something you'll find in the supermarket. So the next one I do have problems trying to pronounce. I believe it's seitan or seitan. It looks like Satan as far as I know, but either seitan or seitan. I can't pronounce it for the world of me, but it's a wheat gluten that gets demonized by a lot of people these days. Puns all around, eh? But with the obvious exception of celiac sufferers and the gluten intolerant, there's nothing to be afraid of with this one. You don't have to be scared of it if you are or do have these two things. First it was created I think it was over 1,000 years ago. It was created. It was as a meat substitute. So for Chinese Buddhist monks. So it's been going for a while. So obviously a lot of research has probably been done and taken into this. So it's a protein in wheat essentially. That's sort of like the terminology I've been researching up. And also it is pretty good. It's supposed to be pretty good and pretty healthy as well. It does help you get the them essential amino acids I was mentioning before. So I do have one more superfood, good protein source for if you are thinking about being vegetarian, and that's quinoa. I believe it's quinoa. Now this is a really, really good one. It's quite interesting food because it's what astronauts eat. It's a food that's so healthy that NASA hopes they'll be able to grow it. So basically they can have it all the time for when they go on missions. So if they want to go to Mars, they want to go to the moon, if they want to do any sort of journey across space or the solar system, they'll be able to do it because they've got the right equipment. And also now they'll have the right food as well. So it's a good source of protein. And obviously you need a balanced diet if you're going to be, in a little ship going miles and miles away. Quinoa looks like couscous. I think I've got an image up here of what it actually looks like. It doesn't look as appetizing as it sort of is. And I've never had couscous, so there you go again. But it's full of fibre. It's good with iron, magnesium and manganese. So yeah, if you want to try it, give that one a go. It's a terrific substitute for rice and versatile enough to make muffins. So you can make a quinoa muffin if you really wanted to. You can also make things like cookies with it as well. So that sounds really good, and that sounds really really appetizing as well, actually, now you can mention it. So yeah, that's quinoa for you. So now looking into more things that you're going to be struggling with if you're going to have a real good go at this diet, or if you do struggle currently, then you're going to need to know a couple of these things. Now, one of them things is iron. Other than if you're going to eat that quinoa I was on about just earlier, then you're going to have the problem getting iron. Now, iron is usually found in things such as fish, a lot of meats as well. So if you're taking meats out of your diet, then you're going to find it hard to get these things. Obviously you need iron as well, otherwise you can get things such as anemia, and you don't want anemia because anemia, basically it's a form of fatigue if you don't get enough iron. Now vegetarians do usually aim towards things such as egg yolks. They're good for getting iron. Pulses, dried fruit, apricots are really good for getting iron. Leafy green vegetables and fortified breakfast cereals as well. So if you're looking to get iron, it can be difficult, but it can also be made quite easy. If you do have a look at some places, they will find it quite easy to get. Or you could always ask, if you go to a vegetarian shop, for example, they'll have everything in. If you're new to this game, obviously if you've got a friend or you've got a cousin or somebody like that who is vegetarian, then you should have the tools to cope, and obviously you should know a little bit about it yourself, or you could just go and ask them. Now, another thing you're going to have trouble with is zinc. Now, zinc supports the immune system and it's important for reproductive health. So if you plan on having little kids later on in life, then you're going to need zinc in your diet, because it's important to have in your diet if you want to reproduce. Now, vegetarians get it from seeds, things such as pumpkin seeds. You get it from nuts, green leafy vegetables, pulses and whole grains. So there you go, you're sorted. So it's not as hard as it's sort of made out to be. Well, it can be, it depends on what your knowledge is, if you can remember to get food with these sort of things in, and also it depends on whereabouts you are. If you're situated somewhere where there's only little, say there's no supermarkets nearby or anything like that, it can be harder to get because you are not close to a supermarket. So finally, I get brought down to vitamin B12, and that's another thing you're going to find hard to get. But again, if you do look at some of the good foods that's out there, you can always ask as well, because vitamin B12 is quite important. So if we move into omega-3, now omega-3 is a fatty acid that is really, it's one of the healthy fats that helps to lower cholesterol as well. So on a diet like this, it's pretty obvious you're going to be getting a lower cholesterol. You're going to be eating the right foods, that is. So that's something that you need to sort of take into consideration. So you're going to be getting omega-3, and it helps to reduce heart disease and strokes as well. So you're not going to drop down and have a stroke anytime soon, or at least your chances of getting one is going to be minimised by something like this. Now, the body prefers forms of omega-3s that you get from fish. Obviously, if you're a vegetarian, you're not going to be getting fish, are you? Unless you are one of the other two vegetarians that just decide they want to eat fish, which is a pescatarian as far as I'm aware. But we'll find out later on in the series about all of that. So you can get omega-3 from things such as flax seeds, and basically I think the flax seeds is probably one of the only things you can get. There will be more, but that's the only one I can dig up as of now. So all you need to do is ask at a shop or a supermarket, and I'm pretty sure they'll be happy to help you out with that issue. So now I know you must be thinking, oh, this sounds too good to be true. It can't be that easy, surely. It can't. It can't be that easy. Well, you'd be right if you said that, because there's a lot of arguments for and against. Now I'm going to bring up two arguments for and against being a vegetarian, and if anything, like I've said at the beginning of this video, everything that I'm saying in this video is simply down to let's just learn what it is, and giving you information, facts and tips, and also tools to help you if you want to do this, or if you just want to figure out what it's all about. And this is by no way me pushing it onto you saying you've got to do it, or do it now, or don't do it at all, because you are your own person and you've got your own choice and decisions. So the first example I've got is, it's cruel and unethical to animals to kill them for food, when there's a vegetarian option available. So yeah, that would be a good argument for being a vegetarian, because there's millions and millions of animals, it doesn't matter what's a pig, cow, anything, that are slaughtered in the UK, United States, all countries, for us to have food on our plate. And yeah, it's something that you don't really think about until it's sort of you sort of have a little think, and you're like, yeah, that's true. How many chickens have died this year? How many chickens have died so and so? It's something that you don't really you take it more for granted, because it's always there. You go to a shopping market, it's there. You know, you go out for a meal, for a restaurant, it's there. It's something you can't get away from. Especially if you go to McDonald's. I mean, that's pretty much everything, you know. So that's one thing to put into consideration for if you want to be a vegetarian. And now I've got one for if you are deciding, well, why would I want to be a vegetarian for? So here's an argument against being a vegetarian. So it's going to be, it's a natural part of life. It's a food chain. We get it everywhere, you know. It's one of them things that just life follows. Obviously, mistakenly, you need to evaluate animal life, and we've been doing it for years and years. Nobody has basically said otherwise. You know, we've killed animals for years, and every organism dies at some point. So, with us being human beings, and we are top of the food chain, we're going to hunt to survive. Our ancestors did it when we were cavemen and women, and we're doing it now. Obviously, we came a long way from then, but the methods in a sense do stay the same, and we are still true to what we eat, and obviously how it all goes. Now, my second argument for being a vegetarian is human anatomy has evolved to primarily suit a vegetarian diet. One of these things would be that humans don't have a large mouth or long pointed teeth like carnivores do. So if you do think about it, it does make sense. You take good carnivores like lions, they've got pointed teeth. Do we have pointed teeth? Wait, unless you're a vampire, you'll have pointed teeth. But we don't have pointed teeth. We have short and flat for chewing fibrous foods. And carnivores have short intestines, which are 3 to 6 times the body's length, I believe. Whereas human intestines are 10 to 11 times longer to allow slower digestion of things such as plant food. Obviously, the liver of a carnivore can detoxify essential vitamin A that's absorbed in meat-based diets. The human liver can't detoxify excess vitamin A. So there is an excellent argument for being vegetarian if you do decide that's what you want to do. That's something I never thought of until wanting to make this video. But obviously you can't have an argument for if you don't have an argument against. So to make it even, I've got one against being vegetarian. So if there's a one that can top that, then it's as good as any excuse. So obviously we've had protein in our diet for so long, especially meat-based proteins, nutrients and protein that obviously our bodies needed for a while, and the inclusion of meat in our diet is an ancestral diet that's provided a dense form of nutrients and proteins that, when combined with high calorie, low nutrient carbohydrates such as roots, allowed us to develop large brains and intelligence. So basically, because our ancestors have eaten a lot of have had a diet that's been based around animal-based foods, we have combined that with other foods, and we've developed our brains, we've developed everything in our body, a lot more because of that. And also our diets are used to that, because obviously it goes all the way back to the Stone Age, when we were jumping off dinosaurs and we were running and chasing our food, and there wasn't many plants around that people would eat. They just went for lions, tigers and bears at the time, because that's all we knew to do. Obviously there will have been some people who ate plants if they were around, because obviously survival instinct, you've got to eat what's around you. Some people probably even tried to eat rocks as well. Obviously it didn't catch on, mustn't it taste nice or something like that. But that's an argument. There's two arguments for and against being a vegetarian. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh, I'm still on the fence or I'm not on the fence, then there's other things you need to think of. So obviously we've looked at what it is, different forms of the diet, obviously nutrients that you need to address. So we've looked at all the good and the bad. We've pretty much covered almost everything in a nutshell. What we haven't covered is traps you can fall in, or different ways you can get sucked in to becoming a bad vegetarian, if anything. So these are things you shouldn't do. So one of them is have a diet that's just specific in one thing. Obviously with any diet you should not just have, say, toast all the time. You shouldn't have it all the time. But this is what I'm saying, you need to have a balanced diet. You need to balance out all your macro and micronutrients around the day. So you need your proteins, your fats and your carbohydrates. But you can't just have protein, and you can't just have carbohydrate, and just such as you can't have fat. So obviously a vegetarian is going to have to find a new way to sort of spread all these around. But depending on your diet, your lifestyle and how you've always done it, it shouldn't be an issue in a sense. Just don't fall into the trap of just eating one type of food or one source of a macronutrient. You've got to mix it up and you've got to make it interesting, otherwise food becomes boring. And I love my food and I don't like to be boring. And that's something else you should do, because it's going to stop your motivation in a way if you're just eating the same types of foods every day. So you've got to mix it up, you've got to make it nice, and then that spurs you on if you're looking to be spurred on a little bit. So the next one is don't rely on carbs. Now a lot of people rely on these to fill you up or to just give you energy, and they lack everything else. So again, with keeping it one of these diets where it's balanced. So the reason why you shouldn't, yes, don't get me wrong, bread and pasta are great sources of starch, starchy carbohydrates even, but they can fill you up before you get all the nutrients you need. So your body is filled up, it's over the calories, but it's starving itself because it's got no nutrients to help the body grow, and all of the things that your body needs to do, all of the bodily functions that are normal, aren't being done because you are lacking the nutrients by being filled up and not wanting to eat more. So another one is avoid the cheese trap. So cheese is a good source of protein and calcium, but it's also high in fat, especially saturated fat, depending on what type of cheese you get, by the way. And there's a lot of cheeses that are made from animals. So you need to, we've got some remnants of animals in. So you need a vegetarian friendly cheese. So again, don't fall down the trap. Obviously again, have it now and again, or spread it on some food. But unless you just want to eat cheese all the time, then by all means, that's completely up to you. Say if you're a mouse, for example, and you want to eat that, hey, I'm not going to stop you. Just make sure you don't get caught in that trap of just eating that as well. So a lot of things, things you should be thinking about. Don't eat too much processed food as well. Just because it's convenient or because it's a ready meal, just because it's labelled suitable for vegetarians, doesn't mean it's sort of the healthiest thing in the world. Especially if you're somebody who doesn't really get out much, or you don't really exercise much, so you're relying more on your nutrition to be sort of like good for you. Don't rely on processed foods all the time. They're not going to give you everything you need, and they're also going to be high in fat, salt and sugar and additives as well. So again, it's all about balancing the diet out. Obviously I'm not going to tell you what to eat and what not to eat, or say you've got to do it. I'm just giving you some advice for if you do want to follow that. Again, don't rely on fast food. Yes, chips, crisps and vegetarian pizzas are all suitable for vegetarians, but they're generally high in fat, and when eaten in large quantities, not good for your waistline, so they're going to make you put weight on. So if you're wanting to be a vegetarian to lose weight, but you want to do it in a healthy way. Don't rely on things such as crisps and processed food. That's a big. Obviously, you can eat it. Just reduce the amount you do eat. Just eat it in moderation. I'm not going to be the food police and say, right, you're not eating that. But just cut it down if you are eating a bit too much, or it looks like it's becoming a bit of an issue. And that is everything to do with being a vegetarian. So that's obviously what it is. That's also covering different types of vegetarianism. It's also covering foods that you need to address, like obviously needs you need to address, food-wise, nutrition, good and bad points about it, and also tips to help you become a brilliant vegetarian if you do decide to. So that is the video finished. It's done and dusted. And thank you for watching, and I will have a vegetarian website in the description if you do decide you want to learn more, or if you are a vegetarian and you want to help yourself or whatever it may be, it will be in the description. So without further ado, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.